So, a very good evening to you. It is, what day is it? I haven't even got my watch on. So, I believe it is the 10th of November, and this is Deep Dive session number 1. And the intention behind these sessions is to really explore a bit more fully some of the things we may have touched on in the sessions that we had. And also, of course, to find out how you guys are getting on. So whether you're watching this live or whether you're checking out the recording, do stick up a comment and say, let us know where you're at, what you've been up to, what's stirring for you, so that we can continue supporting each other and so that we can discover, right, well, there's definitely an area that we need to do a deep dive on. Maybe it's, maybe it's like, which is the best pen to buy, So, but, let's find out. So wherever you're at, whatever challenges you're having or whatever awesomeness is going on for you, do post up a comment. Let us know what's going on, okay? I'll give a few more people a chance to arrive, and thereafter we'll crack on. This is going to be, I guess, a bit more of a kind of, perhaps fireside chat is the best way of describing it. Whereas normally I'm like, there'll be that same George style, but with a bit more, I think we'll take our time a little, and for those of you who are watching live who've got questions, we can explore those as they relate to the topic. Okay, so grab yourself a bit of water, grab yourself pen and paper if you need to, and yeah, stay tuned. So if you are here already, let me know you're here. I'm looking at my thing and I'm like, can I see any comments? I don't know. Do I need to do anything to get the comments? I can see there's one person who's already live and watching. Fantastic, whoever that is. Very good evening to you. Yeah, what's going on Facebook Live? Why don't you show me the comments? Normally has the little bit down the bottom where it kind of tells you what's going on. Never mind. Let me also just get the iPad so that I can keep track of time as well. Michelle, fantastic, good. Okay, cool. So we have got the comments are working, it would seem. Good. Alrighty. Fresh from selling unicorns, if such a thing was possible. So yeah, if you haven't already bought Michelle's book, do that. Get over to Amazon or get over to her website where there's these apparently small versions of the books that, if you like that sort of thing, I'm told are very cute. The book itself is very kind of what's the word? Very powerful. It doesn't pull any punches. It doesn't kind of what's the word? It just fucking gives it to you straight. Let's put it like that, right? So it's one of those books where you'll read it and you'll be like, fuck yeah, I need to start doing that. Or why did I stop doing that? So it's definitely a kick up the rectum if you need it, and if you're not even kind of in that world of needing a kick up the rectum or even aware of what's going on, then it's an amazing book to no bullshit. That's the word I was looking for. It's an amazing book. Kind of basically, it takes hundreds of the various personal development books or courses or whatever, and it's like right there in 80 pages. Let's do this. Cool. So yeah, michellegordon.co.uk if you want that. And this evening's session, it's an interesting one because it's definitely one of those where I think I'm going to be most vulnerable. And as a result, I hope most valuable as well. I really do think that those two things go together. In the new story, particularly in the new story. The old story is like vulnerability, weakness, shit, whereas actually, yeah, being vulnerable, I believe it's, if we can model that for each other, Jesus, it's important. Cam is here, fantastic. Good day, mate. I hope it's, 6 a.m. over there or something? Or the clocks have changed? Is it 5 a.m., 7 a.m.? Whatever time it is, Cam, I hope you're doing very well. Very excited to hear soon, I hope, about some updates on the old Australia trip. So yeah, that will be very good to know. What time we got? 21:06. All right, we'll give it 90 seconds. 7 a.m. Okay, cool. So 7 a.m. That's not too bad. Cam, you must be like, oh, I've had a lie-in. You know, I'm connecting with George. I've had an extra hour in bed. Perfect. Good, good. So, for those who are here, what are we going to be looking at? So, this evening we're going to be exploring what are called creative U-turns, and I'll speak a bit more about that specifically in a moment. Which, you know, they are the thing which is at the heart of self-sabotage. You know, why do we not do the things we need to? All right, so cool. So, Cam, you're on holidays. Nice, you know, nice life. Being on your holidays. These teachers, they get loads of holidays. So yeah, why is it that we and this is particularly true for massive opportunities that might come our way, or massive potential opportunities, and why do we do that? Or why do we either do something that fucks it all up, or why do we not do something that would have, like, you know, ignited it into life, this massive opportunity? So we're gonna be really digging into, we're gonna be diving into what's going on there. Okay. So yeah, we'll give it one more minute and then we'll dive in. Do I need some water? I normally have, you know, you guys know I normally like massive water. So let me just do that whilst. Can I have some water, please? Cool. The bonus being you guys get to see Fan, say hello, because she's been kind enough to bring me some water. So yeah, when the water has arrived, we will begin. So get some water yourself. Get yourself, you know, comfy or uncomfy if you need, you know, depending on what you need to pay attention. God, it feels good to be back. You know, I'm just kind of seeing my ugly mug on the old Facebook Live. It's good to just be flowing, be with you guys again. So if you are checking this out on the recording, do stick up some, stick up a comment. Let us know what you're up to. Let us know what's been going on. Because the more we know about what each other are up to, the more we can help each other. Yes, thank you. Look at that. That's not just any old bit of water. Love it, Cam. Awesome. You made it public, so you're accountable. Wow, we are going to be, you know, there's some synchronicities already. So, mate, this is fantastic. Brilliant. And Cam, that, you know, that line, you know, seeing you say that about, you know, you're already starting to speak it out in public. You know, if you haven't already, definitely check out your countryman, Daniel Priestley. And his big thing, you know, I think I mentioned the phrase in the pitching session, is you get what you pitch for, and you're always pitching. So if that is your consistent message, you know, what's going to happen, Cam, the more you start sharing, you know, what you're trying to achieve, the more other parents are going to be like, oh, you know, Cam, have you heard what Cam is trying to do? Because your consistent message, your consistent pitch is going to just start ingraining itself in people's memories. And then when they meet someone who wants to help someone do that sort of thing, you know, make sure no kid plays football and has to pay for it, then they're going to be like, oh, you need to speak to Cam because he's trying to do this thing. So brilliant to see you, you know, starting to speak it out. And it has such power to speak it out as well. Words are magic. In the beginning was the word. You know, I saw something the other day, right? Whilst it just sprung to my mind there. It was like, you know, the word is actually almost more powerful than that. You know, it was first God said, you know, in the beginning was the word, and the word was God, and then God said, "Let there be light." So it's almost like actually before, you know, anything, before we can see anything, the sound has to come first. The words have to be there first. So brilliant. Loving that little segue off into some kind of I don't know, religio-spiritual affirmation that pitching is very important. So good on you, Cam. All right, let's do this. Let's deep dive into creative U-turns, into savaging self-sabotage. And if you see me kind of looking up like this, it's just I've got a few notes, so I want to make sure I get all of them for you. So that's what's going on. So why is this session important? What's really at the heart of this session? Well, self-sabotage, creative U-turns, and I'll explain a bit more what I mean by that in a moment. They are the ways, or particularly I'd say that, yeah, they're the ways our wounds. We talked about our wounds and our archetypes, and we overcompensate or undercompensate to keep ourselves safe because we've had these wounds. And as a result, we create certain patterns of behavior later in life that are going to hinder us from achieving what we want to achieve. And so when we talk about self-sabotage, that is really, it's like the most powerful method our wounds have of keeping us safe. And you might be thinking, fuck George, I loathe self-sabotage. It's the thing that, for me personally, and I was chatting to a couple of my other friends last night as well, it's how brutal is it? It's fucked. Where you're like, this is the thing I want to be doing. And somehow you find ways to not do that thing. And, my friend I was chatting with last night, he said, it feels like someone is constantly taking my legs out from under me. I know the direction I want to be walking and I start trying to walk the path and it's like someone takes my legs out from under me. And that's what self-sabotage is. And it's the ways, and crazily, you're like, how can that be keeping us safe? But, our wounds are playing out from our traumas right, way back in the past. And so, we still have, it's still ingrained in us that this is the way we keep ourselves safe, by not doing this thing you think you should be doing, or by not, calling this person, or, by doing the things that are gonna let us really be our truest selves. Well, actually, our wounds were formed by us being our truest selves, and for some reason, whether it was for a parent or a teacher or some part of society, that wasn't okay. And that was a traumatic experience. For us to discover that us being our true selves was not okay, was traumatic, and it wounded us. And as a result, we developed behaviours that stopped us from being our true selves so that we could keep ourselves safe. And of course, now when we're in our kind of full adult selves, we want to be our true selves. And we don't want to be stopped. And yet, those old patterns are still playing out. So this session, that's why this session is so important, because we're going to dig a bit into, how we can actually, savage that self-sabotage, stop it from taking our legs out from underneath us. Okay. And I spoke about the phrase creative U-turns. And this was, I came across this phrase in this book, which probably is all backwards for you, called The Artist's Way, by a lady called Julia Cameron. Amazing book. Which I confess I haven't actually applied. I've read but haven't applied. And I'm not even sure I've read the whole thing, but there's some books where you're like, oh my God, even you read 3 or 4 pages and you're like, gee, this is amazing. So really recommend that, not just for artists, because in the news story particularly, but it almost in, whatever story we're in, any entrepreneurial endeavor is a work of art. You are trying to bring something of value to the world. And there is a creative element to that. Okay, so amazing book. And in this book, Julia Cameron talks about creative U-turns, and she defines them as what happens when we get to a point where something big could be about to kick off for us. So we've maybe we've put on an exhibition, or we've written a few blog posts, and someone comes along and says, "Hey, I've checked out what you've been doing, and I'd like to help you do it bigger." So it might be a big gallery comes along and says, "Hey, I saw your art hanging in a cafe," or "I saw this little exhibition you did. I want to put you up. I want to put you up in my giant gallery." Okay, and they say, "Here's my card." And Julia Cameron, she says, the creative U-turn is what happens when somehow we manage not to call the number on the card. We manage not to take the next step that could see this opportunity blossom. Okay, nice. So Michelle's come across it. Yes, Julia Cameron's very famous. A lot of people come across her practice, which is called Morning Pages. So Michelle, let us know, how was that 30 days of Morning Pages? What did that give you? Because yeah, that's a very immediate practice that we'll speak a bit about in a moment. So Julia Cameron talks about, and let me know, have you had examples in your own lives where you can look back and go, yeah, why didn't I call that person? Or, why didn't I upload that thing I promised I'd upload? Or why didn't I send that copy of that book or that report to that person who asked for it? Why didn't I get back to that investor? Have you had moments like that? And again, if you're watching the recording, guys, don't just treat this as a dud thing. You know, let us know what have been your creative U-turns. I'm going to share a few with you as a way of understanding what the journey of self-sabotage looks like, usually beginning with some kind of creative U-turn. Okay, so you know, and the reason this session really is coming from a deep place for me is because as soon as I read that phrase and read about creative U-turns, I was like, wow, it defined my last 5 years of my life. I was like, that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years. You know, I spoke about in the routine resilience session that I was very much kind of a hummingbird, you know, flitting from one thing to the next, both in terms of how I tried to improve myself, but also in the things I would try and do. You know, was I trying to make pancakes? Was I a youth worker? Was I an author? Was I a poet? Was I a musical entrepreneur? So all of these things, and it almost seemed like every time something threatened to kick off, you know, in a big way for any of those things, I'd creative U-turn on them. And so I was very grateful to Julia Cameron for articulating it so well and for giving me a way of understanding what had been going on, what was at the heart of my self-sabotage. So I really, you know, I'm here on this session with you guys, not as someone who has stopped self-sabotaging, not as someone who, in fact, you know, there's a creative U-turn currently going on in my life that I'm aware of. I had a lady email me maybe 2 or 3 weeks back about wanting to do some work. Myself and Harry doing some work for the young people in Cornwall, and we'd exchanged emails. There was meant to be a meeting, which I totally just didn't put in my diary. She was forgiving when I called and apologised, and I still haven't got back in touch to rearrange the meeting. So, you know, I stand here going, you know, this is not something I've solved totally, but I hope that I feel like I have great value to share because it's something I've done so much of, and therefore I've done so much study into to go, what is going on, George? Why are you tripping yourself up so consistently? So I hope that in my failures and in the idea that you give what you need. So I share with you, you know, where I'm at with self-sabotage and creative U-turns, because I need what I'll be sharing with you as well, and I'm, you know, actively implementing what I'll be sharing with you as well. So yeah, I feel it's important to note that, because if you are creatively U-turning, self-sabotaging, great, because you know what? It just means you're trying to do important things. If you were trying to do bullshit things that didn't matter, there'd be no self-sabotage. You just do bullshit things that didn't matter. Okay, so big up yourself for getting to the point where your comfort zone is being stretched, and for some reason you're needing to self-sabotage or make creative U-turns. Okay, so what does the journey of self-sabotage look like? And this isn't, what I'm going to share with you isn't particularly, it's not like a linear thing where it's like these are the exact stages. You know, it might start at stage 4, or it might just, you know, it might be stage 2 and 3, and then it goes straight to the end. This is just, you know, what I've tried to offer you in what I'm about to share is some of the stages and some of the points on the self-sabotage journey, so that you can recognize them, and, you know, also share, I hope, how they show up for you. And in recognizing them, in shedding some light on them, becoming aware of them, hopefully they can be averted before, you know, both your legs are chopped out from under you. You know, you can still carry on walking toward where you're trying to get to. Okay, so you might think, if we're talking about creative U-turns, that it starts with a lack of action, and that will often be what happens. Yeah, you will not take some action, but actually it doesn't begin with that very often. I've found what it begins with is what I call a breach in being. A breach in being. And we spoke on the Creative Ignition sessions that your doing can only be as strong as your being. Okay, your doing can only be as strong as your being. So what will happen, whether you're aware of it or not, is that often you will do something that causes you to be in a kind of in a less than optimum state. Your presence will be less than optimum. Okay, this might be, you know, you go out and get drunk a couple of days before a big presentation that you've got to give, and as a result, you create a much more shoddy presentation than you might have liked to, or you know, you perhaps prioritise something that you know, is totally unimportant, but actually leaves you feeling a bit knackered or feeling a bit drained or feeling a bit stressed, and therefore you lack the energy needed to do whatever it is you need to do, so that you can take advantage of the opportunity that's been presented to you. Okay, and you know, a phrase that works, you know, it's useful to keep in mind here is shaming behaviours, because remember, this is about your wounds undermining you. And they will do that by poking one of the kind of core wounding messages around the archetypes, very often around the king, magician, or warrior, and it can be the lover as well. So you might undertake some behaviour that will allow you to give yourself the message, to reinforce the message in you that perhaps you're not good enough. And well, if you're not good enough, of course, you're going to creatively U-turn and self-sabotage because, well, you're not good enough. So there's, you know, it's not going to work anyway, probably. Okay. So you'll have some shaming behaviours that undermine your ability to act. So I call it the breach in being. And I've just seen that my telephone is running out of battery. So this is going to be very exciting. We are going to go on a little journey, and we're going to take the notes with us. The lighting is probably going to change as we go downstairs to where there is a charger. Yeah. Here we are. So welcome to my living room, where you guys have been many a time before. Let's plug in the old phone. Cool. Alrighty, we have power, I hope. Good. So, how's that? Is that just going to nestle there? Oh, you beauty. Excellent. Okay. I am not going to sit on that. I'll be silly. Let's sit on this thing. Okay. We're back. How are you guys doing? If you're still with me, let me know you're still with me. After that little impromptu dash to charge ourselves. So yeah, shaming behaviours. And actually, fan. I was going to see if fan wanted to input on shaming behaviours, because obviously we're talking about the archetypes, something very very prevalent for her, of course. So you come across the idea of shaming behaviours? The kind of.
Well, yes.
So I wonder, since I'm suggesting that often our creative U-turns, our self-sabotage, will be the result of, first of all, we'll do something that will undermine our ability to act. So we'll kind of, and often that might be a shaming behaviour. So we might go out and get drunk, and therefore that will reinforce the message to ourselves: oh, we're useless anyway, or we can't even control ourselves. What's the point in trying to do anything more? So have you guys got anything? And I'm suggesting that actually very often that will poke at the archetypal kind of wounds we might have had, reinforce those messages, and therefore shut us down basically. So I guess anything you'd add to that? Anything I've missed in that? Do you think?
I think the reason why we tend to have shaming behaviours is because we have learnt them growing up, and it's very it's very easy if you look back at school or parenting. Usually out of one of those two we will have learned to be ashamed of ourselves for not having done something well enough, for not having done something at all, or for having done something wrong. And during those years where our development is massive, and where we are at our I wouldn't say vulnerable, because we're very powerful in those early years, but we're certainly very, everything that we are learning anchors so much deeper during those growing up years than they do when we're 25 plus. So it's where they come from, and that's why they've developed. I wouldn't say that it's something that comes from that comes naturally, or that's how we are. It definitely isn't how we are. We've learned those behaviours, those shaming behaviours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you want to stay, or are you?
Well, I don't know what you want me to do.
Well, no. So the other element I've in my own experience that I found that can also lead to a kind of a creative U-turn. And Cam, I'm going to come to your question in a minute. Will be where you don't heed your heart as well. So you'll get a little kind of intuition or a little voice from your heart saying, "Oh, this is the thing," and you just, for whatever reason, again, perhaps because you don't believe you're worth it, or you don't believe you're good enough, or you don't believe because you've taken on some limiting beliefs through some trauma, through some wounds, you won't trust that little voice that knows what you truly want, what you truly desire. And an example of that for myself was I got an opportunity to speak on Daniel Priestley's stage. He runs massive events. And at the time, I was working with a guy who was trying to be kind of an agent for me. And he said, "Oh, I should charge lots of money for them." And I was like, I love what Daniel Priestley does. I just, I want to just, even if I'd have to do it for free, it'd be such amazing exposure, all of that sort of stuff. And I kind of let myself get talked into being like demanding money when I just knew it wasn't the right thing to do. I knew that this was just a great opportunity that I should act on. That's what my heart really told me, and I should just seize it. And as a result, it totally fell away, and it never really happened. So I look back and go, that was a real time when I didn't heed my heart, and as a result, a massive opportunity, went by the wayside. So not heeding your heart can be another way that a self-sabotage process will start. And when so once you've had this breach in your being, so whether it's like you got drunk and you then were too hungover to do the presentation, or you did something that drained your energy that was totally pointless and wasn't going to serve the long-term opportunity, then the excuses and the should-musts turn up. The excuses and the should-musts turn up. And they are, where you think, oh, well, I could call them, but now's not quite the right time. I need to just finish off this thing. I should do this. I really must do this. Let me ask you this. Do any of you have an eternal item on your to-do list? Like I was saying, this lady who I should have emailed ages ago. There we go. There's the word should, right? You have this item that, I've got to get round to doing that. Yes, I've got to get. And what that is you've essentially, you've missed the first strike when you could have said, there's the opportunity. I'm going to nail it. And you thought, and you missed that first strike. You start the creative U-turn process, and you still kind of kid yourself that you're not self-sabotaging because you've got the item on your to-do list. It's going to be okay. And I want to come in on Fanny in a second on this, which is both of those, whether it's the excuses that, now I've missed the time anyway, or I've just got to do this thing, or you have this eternal to-do list item from the should-musts. Both of those are essentially reinforcing the message that keeps you safe, which is it's pointless anyway. There's no point, taking this any further because I've missed the opportunity or I'm not good enough. Both of those elements, the excuses and the should-musts, are reinforcing that it's pointless anyway. That's the message you're ultimately giving yourself that's kind of keeping you safe and getting you off the hook. Anything kind of resonating with you on that to add in?
I've definitely done that. Well, we all, a lot of us do that.
So Cam, I want to speak to whilst Fan considers anything that might go a bit deeper on the kind of archetypal side of things on that. I want to speak to your comments. So you're asking, can the U-turn be caused by others' comments? So yes, and that it will come in at a number of different levels. So it may be that you're in an amazing state and you're really juiced and you've got this potential opportunity, and someone says something negative. and it changes your state. You know, you accept their dog shit, right? Remember, you accept their dog shit, and as a result, you don't feel so juiced about the opportunity, and you know, you actually go, wow, you know, you let it you let it take out your legs. So definitely that it can come in there. Other people's comments can come in there, or other people's comments could start to be inadequacy reinforcers, which is once you've maybe missed that first moment, or you know, they then say something and you're like, yeah, they're probably right. You know, that's what I was thinking about myself. So they're reinforcing, their comments start to reinforce the message that it's pointless anyway. You know, the part of you that is seeking to keep you safe latches onto those comments because it's like, yes, there's a reinforcement that you're not good enough, or that you're bad, or you don't exist. There's no point in, you know, trying to do this stuff. Okay, so other people's comments can come in at so many different levels of the self-sabotage. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, I would say the two single most important things to do to counter this self-sabotage is to track it over time. So really, like, imagine you're or just use an animal that you really have a connection with, or you know, an affinity with, and imagine their tracking instinct, and imagine that's how you're going to track your saboteur. You know, because I think tracking is one of the most important things you can do in order to then being able to implement a new habit at that moment when you notice that this is what's going on, and then that new habit is about giving yourself a break from all these voices, these excuses, this should, must, this I'm not good enough, this shaming behavior. It's actually going, right, enough of you, this is what I'm going to do. And definitely, most definitely not adding to the shame and not adding to that weight, basically, because as soon as you haven't done something and you feel that disappointment and you feel that shame, it's all very heavy stuff. It's actually very much about tracking that. As soon as you track that, as soon as you feel it happening, it's about implementing that habit of what is it you want instead, and starting doing that. What is it that feels good to you instead, and starting doing that.
So I think the phrase I've stuck on my notes to capture the essence of that tracking is, well, actually do the tracking and see if you can seize on the creative U-turning, self-sabotaging behaviour when it's a bud, not a blossom. When it's a bud, not a blossom. Okay, because it feeds on your own. The more you beat yourself up, the more power you are actually giving to the self-sabotage. And so if you can kind of, if you know, say you've waited 1 day before you make the call, and you said you'd make the call straight away, but you've waited 1 day. I know it seems obvious, but don't fucking wait any longer. He says, having waited 2 weeks to send this one email. So again, this is, you know, I give what I need in this. And I love that metaphor of the tracking, getting the tracking animal. I'm going to actually implement that, because the reason I bought this as the first session is because it's really been present for me. And Fan talked about tracking, and like I said, over the last few years, I've really been tracking it hard, but particularly in the last month or so, because, you know, I've been trying to bring this Creative Ignition, you know, course to the wider world, and I found myself, you know, a number of different ways, really fucking creative ways, self-sabotaging, creative U-turning, not hitting the deadlines I've set for myself, and so I want to share with you one thing that's really helped in the last few days to really kick me back on track powerfully, and it came from a council that Fan and I had, and you can actually see it in the background over here. And this is where I love the synchronicity of Cameron saying he's spoken out his intentions in public because he's made himself more accountable. And so one of the things, you know, tracking is a massive power move in terms of how you can nip these creative U-turns, this self-sabotage in the bud. But the other tool that is really powerful is a higher level of accountability. Now, you can try and keep yourself accountable. And but in my personal experience, fuck, that's hard. Because look, if it was that easy to keep yourself accountable, you'd be doing it and you wouldn't be self-sabotaging, right? It's pretty freaking obvious. So what is needed is a higher accountability, or a more powerful method of accountability. And some things will work for others that, that don't work for others, So, worst English ever. But what I'm saying is, what I'm about to suggest may not work for you, but it's been working very well for Fan and I lately. And I know it's been working in parts for Michelle as well, because she was doing a similar thing. So, in the post I put up before this video, I said, warning, do not click this link, okay? That is the link to the Momentum Master game, okay? Because I spoke about very often, creative U-turns and self-sabotage will begin with a breach in your being. That might be that, to keep you safe, you stop doing the exercise that gives you the energy to do the things you need to do. Or you stop eating the right food, so you feel shit, and therefore you don't make the telephone calls because you're like, oh, I feel shit, I'll make it when I feel better. And of course you keep eating shit, so you never feel better and you never make the telephone call. Okay, so to both hold us to a higher level of accountability, and to ensure that our being can always be as strong as possible, so that our doing is much more likely to be right when it's right needed. Okay, we've created a game called Momentum Master, and all you do is you select 5 habits. And Cam, I've seen your comment. I'm going to come to it in a minute. Let me just explain the game. You take 5 habits that you know are going to help you to be in your best state possible, to have your presence at its optimum level. Okay. So what have I got up there? I've got my morning routine. I've got writing. I've got social media interactions. I've got my warrior board, which is the thing I've shared with you already about how I plan my day out the night before. And I've got my hip, strengthening and stretching my hip so that I can get back into really high levels of intensity and exercise. So those are the 5 that I know, if I can nail those over the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months, my being is going to be supercharged, and therefore my doing is going to be supercharged equally. Okay, so the link, you will see, you are invited to play the game. This is where we are going to hold each other to a higher level of accountability. The reason why the creative U-turns haven't fecked me totally in terms of sharing creative ignition with the world is because I've got you guys, I've got the group, and I value you guys and your love, your support, and the connection we've created far too much to, just let it totally fall apart. And I also value this woman far too much to actually, be fucking useless. In my shaming little way there that so please play the game with us. I think there's slots at the moment for like 12 different players. So all you have to do is put in your habits, and we are going to keep score of each other. And there's a level of honesty in there. If you complete the habit, you get a point, and you'll see there's various belts. At the moment, we're both white belts, we're novices. The first belt, red belt, you achieve after you win 26 points. At the moment, I'm on course. I don't know if I'm on course for a perfect week. I think Fan is at the moment, but we shall see. So please, the invitation is there to definitely come and play the game. Come and play the game, because the more we have holding each other to account, the less likely we are to creatively U-turn and self-sabotage. So let me have a gander at Cam's comment. I seem to find lately that when self-sabotage or other comments are negative, I get into the football field and I see the success and chat with my support. Ooh, there's a big comment. Nice. And I'm accountable for everyone who is on the... Yeah, brilliant. So Cam, what you're doing there, you are finding ways to keep yourself accountable, and also to feed your being as well. Listen, it's amazing when people say, you're amazing, you're incredible. It silences those negative voices that say you're not good enough, that say you're bad, that say you don't love right. Okay? So Cam, brilliant. You're doing some great stuff in terms of minimizing the possibility of self-sabotage. But definitely play the game with us. Love to have you on board. So the link is there. If you're watching the recording, get on board. Come and play Momentum Master, and let's take this game to the world as well. Have you got anything to kind of add to any of my crazy rantings here?
Well, with regards to accountability, it often falls into you need inspiration to, you know, and that falls into the sovereign category. You know, if you look back at the archetypes and where you can draw on your sovereign quarter, if you like. So you finding the people in your life that are great at blessing you for who you are and blessing you for your visions, for your dreams, that want you to succeed. You know, it might not be your mum and dad, but it might be, you know, just finding those people in your life. And whenever that saboteur or that sabotaging behavior has got hold of you, just knowing that these are the people you need to hang around with. These are the people that will, you know, will ask you how you are, how you're getting on with this, because they are interested in that and they're interested in your success. Identifying those people is massively important. Even just having their names somewhere on a piece of paper or on a diary of yours, or just knowing that these are the people that you need to be around whenever that creative U-turn has happened, and who you need to just go and have a cuppa with, or sit down and have a check-in and do that.
So Cam's saying that he gets on the field and he sees his supporters and the parents, and they're blessing him for what he's done. So
That's
actually he's doing it as well. So great.
You're getting the blessing that, you know.
And guys, whether you're watching this live or on the recording, let me be that for you as well. I fucking love you guys. You know, obviously you've seen me already. Whenever I see amazing talent in our group, I share it. So you know, I'd love to bless you guys. If you ever need it, ping me up a message in the group. Just be like, I'm in danger of creatively sabotaging myself. And so you know, anyone who's watched this video will then jump on and bless you. So you know, don't think, oh, you know, I'm weak or silly for asking for blessing or for, you know, reaching out and needing some encouragement. This is, the news story is about interdependence. It is about the incredible synergy and power that is created when we depend on each other. And an incredible way of depending on each other is saying, I could really use a blessing right now. I could really use some encouragement. Can I just check in with you about this? Okay. That is the beauty of this group. We are a family. So please, if you need it, ask for it. And if you can give it in spades. So guys, if you have any further questions, ping them up now if you're watching live. Otherwise, I'm going to head off and I'm going to do my warrior board for tomorrow. And yeah, all good. I'm going to say thank you to Fan for giving her little insights, because, mate, again, we call this a deep dive, right? So, you know, I'm really grateful for the depth you've taken it to, particularly that final thing with the sovereign as well. So, give Fan a round of applause, please, if you're watching live. And even if you're not, if you're watching recording, give her a round of applause. Cool.
Okay. Right, I'm going to go and do my next thing on the board.
Right,
Finish
nice
stuff.
All right. Been giving racks.
What's racks?
What is racks? My brother goes to a wine bar called Racks, but it's spelt very differently. Reinforcement, affirmation, and knowledge. Cam, what is racks? Oh, random acts of kindness. Nice. Okay, cool, good.
Nice.
Yeah, amazing. Like here, an amazing one. You know, you do a random act of kindness, all of those negative voices shut down, because it's in the presence of kindness and beauty. You know, it's very hard for self-sabotage to have any foothold. So good, perfect. Michelle, I know we need to jump on a call. I particularly want to do a deep dive on Intergalactic Network. So let us make that happen. If you're watching the recording and you're curious, go, ooh, what's Intergalactic Network? It's fucking amazing, and we're going to make it happen. So yeah, let's do that. I'll ping you up on the old Facebook. And guys, anyone who, you know, let us know where you're at. If you are, you know, checking out this video and going, oh, you know, yeah, I need to get my momentum going again. Head over and play Momentum Master. Click the link, or you know, or hit me up if you got, you know. Let's jump on a call if you need to. Good, Michelle's sabotaging less these days. Good. Well, I hope there's a, you know, you've discovered your unicorn, you know, so there we go. That's what happens. You know, that's the final thing. You want to stop sabotaging? Find your unicorn. It's out there, people. It's out there. Cool. Guys, lots of love, and I will look forward to seeing you next week for our deep dive session, and obviously I'll be interacting in the group as well. So go well, Hit me up, be in touch if you need to be, and until the next time, lots of love.